So you took antibiotics and probably weren't told how to restore your gut. Friends, if this is you, you're going to want to say. My name is Naria. I'm a functional gut health registered dietitian. And today we're going to be talking about this really, really big, important topic that often affects most people and aren't even aware of it. What happens to your gut after you take antibiotics is huge. And we want to think about why these issues often come back months or even years after you take these. And many times you think you're in the clear because the symptoms go away, but often you're not. If you've ever taken antibiotics and felt great for a while, only to be hit with bloating, food sensitivities, or even new issues months later, this is going to be for you. Now, I will tell you, when I started working as a registered dietitian in clinics, I noticed a pattern. I didn't put it together. At first, I kept hearing patients say, I took antibiotics and this happened. I took antibiotics and it never went away. I even remember specifically working with someone who told me their life was totally normal until one day they took antibiotics. And from that point on, they experienced diarrhea every single day, to where at the point where I met them, which was years, not months, years after, they were so underweight, they didn't even know what to do. The doctors didn't even know what to do. It was such an interesting case, to say the least, especially because at that point, I didn't specialize in gut health. So I didn't know really what to recommend. At that point, it was just like, I don't know, probiotic, kefir, kombucha. Oh gosh. I wish I knew then what I know now. First, let's get this straight. Antibiotics can be life-saving. They're powerful tools, but they aren't targeted. They don't just kill off an infection or overgrowth. They also wipe out large parts of your gut microbiome, including your keystone bacteria, which are the bacteria that protect your gut lining, regulate your immune system, and reduce inflammation. So basically, the good and bad die. Think of it like this. You had a diverse garden and now it's been hit by a wildfire, and the weeds might be gone, but so are the flowers. And if we don't replant the right things after, what grows back isn't always helpful. That's where people get stuck. They kill everything. There's a big wildfire. And then the doctor's like, okay, you feel better, cool, bye. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily just the doctor's fault. It's a whole system, right? It's a whole system. You have to understand, for the most part, your clinic, your providers are controlled by how much time, how much resources is given to them by their insurance providers. So insurances, for the most part, don't provide a lot of time. They continue to reject claims and so forth. So trust me, friends, it's not just your doctors. It's a big headache to deal with insurance companies. It's a big flawed system at the end of the day. So you do have to take the time to take control of your own health and learn about these things, just like you're doing right now. The thing is, it's very clear. This is what I see in most patients. They take antibiotics, maybe for a UTI, a sinus infection, or even SIBO, and they feel better. They're like, Naria, I'm good. The symptoms are gone. But no one talks about what comes next. So they go back to their usual diet. Stress picks up. They're not thinking about their gut support, their gut lining, the keystones, nothing. And then 2 to 3 months later, even years later, the bloating comes back. They can't tolerate fiber. They can't eat beans. They can't eat broccoli. Fatigue hits. Food sensitivities out of nowhere start to show up. And sometimes even anxiety or skin issues. This delay is important. Just because symptoms are gone doesn't mean the gut is restored. I wish. There's a rebuilding window that often, and I will say borderline always, gets skipped. As a provider that's helped over 10,000 people, it's very difficult for me to see people feel that everything is good after antibiotics and they say, I don't need to do a gut restoration phase, because I know it's going to happen. I know that if they were to reach out to me in 3, 6, or even a year, 6 months or a year after, the issues are going to be a lot worse. And sometimes, and I get it, I'm an adult too, and I try to do things my way, but sometimes we have to learn from personal experience. And for the most part, it's most people. But I think that if doctors were to explain these things, that people would really believe the process that I do need to restore after. But when has your doctor told you about restoring your gut after an antibiotic? When the gut is wiped out, it's like an empty field. Something is going to grow back. And if you're not intentional, it might be the wrong thing. And usually it is. This is where opportunistic bacteria and yeast can overgrow. Things like candida or even sulfur producing bugs that create that gas and bloating inflammation. They can grow back. And without strong keystone bacteria like Akkermansia or bifidobacteria, your gut lining stays so vulnerable, friends. Those keystone microbes rely on one thing. Can you guess? Fiber. People are very hesitant to increase it, especially if you have a history of flare-ups. But fiber is one food that rebuilds your gut army. So essentially, if you're not increasing your fiber, you're going to not be nourishing that army. And I do mean increasing your fiber through real foods. Yes, of course, supplementing to supplement your diet is cool, but you really have to focus on the main foundation being actual food. Here are a few symptoms that show up months after taking antibiotics when gut restoration was totally skipped. Brain fog, fatigue, skin flares like acne, eczema, histamine reaction, food reactions that didn't exist before, constipation or diarrhea like the patient that I mentioned, and for many, a resurgence of old infections like BV, yeast infections, or even SIBO. What's happening isn't random at all. It's often a disrupted microbiome and poor gut lining integrity that was never rebuilt after the antibiotics did their job. And the thing is, no one probably told you about this, but you're here, so now you know. So, what should happen after taking antibiotics? Here's what I recommend to most of my patients who are in my program, Flare Freedom. Number one, testing. Let's see what actually died and what's actually present, what's happening. Let's look at the real picture to decide who we need to feed and who we don't need to feed. Because yes, certain microbes like certain foods. So you don't want to feed microbes that are already in abundant amounts. You want to feed the ones that are barely there. This could include some probiotics and prebiotics. But again, not just random from the store. I highly recommend that you do first the testing. During this stage, we also focus on reducing the inflammation, but it's going to depend on the level of inflammation and what's causing the inflammation. Now, during the first stages, it's beneficial to do some supplements to really start to feed those keystones. And this may include adding some psyllium husk, maybe some inulin, maybe some type of varied fiber, but it's also going to be dependent on your condition. So if you have, for example, diverticulosis versus if you have IBS, that type of fiber, the quantity is going to be different. But one thing that will be the same for everyone is you want to be mindful of gradually increasing in fiber and making sure that it's balanced. So let's say your goal is 8 grams of fiber. You want to divide that between breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then you go to 10, 15, 20, blah, blah, until you get to meet your fiber goal. For the most part, unless I'm working with someone who has a very severe case, I try to get people over 40 grams of fiber a day. In cases that it's a little severe, we may be at 15 to 25. It really depends. But even then, we play around with different types of fibers to see what they can tolerate. Next, we really focus on the gut lining support. Products or nutrients like L-glutamine, zinc, collagen, it can really help with the gut lining, especially if someone's dealing with leaky gut. We really want to see, do you have leaky gut? That we can tell if someone has leaky gut from having or not having Akkermansia muciniphila, which we can see in the BiomeFX. And we have to think of what issues you have, because maybe you don't have leaky gut to where we don't have to focus on certain things. When I say it's personalized, I really do mean it. So I can't just tell you guys, take this, this, and this, and that, and then you're cool. No, because everyone here is very different. You have different lifestyles. You have different stress levels. You have different childhoods. You have different everything. So I can't tell you that for what your neighbor is going to work for you. That's where functional testing come into play. But no matter what your case is, you're going to have these steps. Now, if you've never had issues and you're just listening to this episode for fun, just increase your fiber and maybe take a spore form probiotic, and that should be a good starting level for you. But if you've had reoccurring problems with your gut, do a functional test like BiomeFX and just make sure it's with a gut specialist, not just a random general provider. It has to be a gut specialist, because if it's not, most likely you're going to be paying 2 people to do the same job. So take this as a warning. As long as you're strategizing everything that I mentioned here, slowly adding the fiber, gradually decreasing the inflammation, the issues will improve. The inflammation will start to go down. Now, if you're blindly doing it and you never had a functional stool test, it may take you longer to obviously rebuild because you don't know what you're rebuilding. Working with a functional provider, having them really help you with your diet, your lifestyle is going to also be key. You cannot just focus on supplements, on just testing and expect everything to be butterflies and rainbows unless you're prioritizing your entire lifestyle, your diet, your sleep, your stress. If you totally ignore that and just spend hundreds or even more on supplements and programs, you're going to be here forever. You do have to take the time to evaluate your entire life to really heal your gut. So in short, if you've taken antibiotics, you need to strategize how you're going to rebuild. Keyword strategy. Remember, you need to replant your gut garden. Your gut microbiome isn't just passengers, it's your defense system and your energy source, your anti-inflammatory shield. It's something that you should really protect with everything you have. Let's stop thinking about antibiotics as the end of the story. They're not. They're actually in the middle. The healing comes after, when the rebuilding phase starts. Now, if this hits home and you want more on how to build your gut, follow me on Instagram. I provide so many free tips and hand out so many resources. Follow Naria Lemaire Nutrition for more of these tips and behind the scenes on what I eat and what my clients eat to restore their gut and flare freedom. And if you want personalized support, feel free to reach out. Just send a DM or send us a message at 619-245-9336. As usual, friends, make sure to share this. If you have a friend that recently took antibiotics or took antibiotics and never went back to normal, because they need to know that there is strategies for them to follow to restore their gut, to get back to the old version of themselves where they didn't have to worry about these gut issues. Make sure to drop a comment and let me know what was your takeaway from this episode and what you're going to start to practice.